Okay. So hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining this edition of Wiz's CISO webinar series. I'm Russ Hertzberg. I'm VP of Product Strategy here at Wiz, and I'll be moderating today's session. The way today will work is we're going to have a 25-minute panel discussion, and then we're saving 5 minutes for a live Q&A. So any question you have throughout the session, just put it here in the Q&A chat, and then we will address those in the last 5 minutes. And with that, I am really excited today to be joined by a great expert panel. They will be sharing their personal experiences and perspectives. And instead of trying to summarize myself, the many reasons why they are the perfect speakers for today's topic, I'm going to ask each of them to introduce herself in a couple of words. So starting with you, Disha.
Yes, thank you, Raz, and so happy to be here. It's a pleasure. So thank you for having me. Real quick, introducing myself. I'm Disha Agarwal, and I head the cloud security engineering function at Cisco. As part of that, my team's charter is protecting Cisco's data and assets in the cloud, while enabling the business to securely adopt the cloud. Uh, I have over 15 years of experience in the security industry, a large part of that in the cloud security space. And before Cisco, I had the cloud security program at Adobe, where I championed the shift left in secure by design approaches and standardized Adobe's operational security stack of services that allowed for consistent security monitoring, security policy governance, and compliance, and help secure developer workflows. So thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. And over to you, Minona.
Hi, my name is Mignana Cote. I am the Chief Security Officer at NetApp, and I am very passionate about the cloud. I decided a few years ago I really needed to know it, so I did a rotation through Amazon Web Services where I took the solutions architect training 3 times to get to the aha moment of the cloud. And with that, I moved into NetApp so I could expand beyond AWS, and now it's Google, Azure, AWS, Oracle, and IBM. So I'm all in.
Thank you so much. And over to you, Nicole.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Dove. I'm a cybersecurity leader at Riot Games. I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor. I make courses on cybersecurity. And fun fact, I also do a little bit of video game voiceover work. So I've done some work on Grand Theft Auto, which is really dating myself, long time ago. But my role at Riot is I'm building our first and only Global Business Information Security Officer program. So we're supporting US, European, and Asia Pacific operations, where we're aligning the capabilities of security with the priorities of the business to make sure that we are developing and releasing secure products for our players.
Well, that one's hard to top. Over to you, Joanna.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try. I cannot top voiceover on GTA. My name is Joanna McDaniel Berkey. I just capped a operational career of 3 decades, believe it or not, in cyber and technology, and have transitioned into doing full-time board service. I sit on the boards of a couple of companies and have joined a couple of product companies in an advisory role as well. So getting to enjoy the portfolio career now.
Thank you. So thank you all, and again, thank you for taking the time. Before we jump into the more detailed and deep dive questions, we're going to start with just a quick like rapid fire questions. So I'll quickly call your names. So describing your outlook on cloud security in one single word. So Disha, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think I view it as a business enabler and helps on customer trust if done right.
That's a bit of cheating. There was the one word, but we'll take it. Minana.
Training.
Joanna.
Optimistic.
Nicole.
Critical.
Love it. My second and last rapid fire question. As security leaders, what is one thing you would never do? And we'll go the other end to make it fair. So Nicole.
I would never use the same password for multiple login credentials.
Fair enough. Joanna.
Make guarantees to anybody.
Mignona.
Ignore critical exposure.
Disha.
ignore a security incident.
Cool. Okay, and now going into the deeper questions. And Vinyana, I'm going to start this one with you. We are constantly seeing buzzwords like zero trust, AI, passwordless, everything across the headlines. Do you agree that these are the things that merit all of the attention, or what do you see as like the biggest challenges security teams need to address and focus on for the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, when I hear those three, I mean, obviously we're all into AI mania right now. So AI, big concern there is it the big concerns keep changing. So we started AI governance role within our company, and our solutions have AI, and because of AI, we build storage, and so storage is now going to grow for storing all the AI work that's happening. But from a security perspective, want to definitely make sure that we look at good known behaviors instead of being able to implement bad behaviors. Then I go into zero trust. I was like, what's that network of the future, and how do we implement the network of the future? And when I think of that, is how do we think about actually enabling multiple cloud environments to have the protection that they need, and how do we do it with zero trust? What I'm seeing on the development of zero trust is some of the legacy mindsets being built into the future capabilities. So I am so grateful for my experience at AWS to be able to look at networks in a different way. And then going to passwordless, I have I think starting when I was at Aetna, went on the journey of implementing next gen authentication. What are the 130 contextual features that make up a person and their identity, and when will we get there? So we have tools. They're not fully there yet. And then the people passwords versus the non-people passwords, we're still struggling on how to manage the non-people passwords within a passwordless environment. So there's just so much richness going on, and I can't say one bubbles up to the top because my mind every day is going through multiple key areas.
Thank you for that. I'll turn the next question over to Disha. So, Disha, as security teams grapple with the complexities of the cloud, and I couldn't agree more with Mignana, like even just the concept of what is exposure, like what is a network, how do I think of my network is changing. It's not just what they protect that's changing, but it's also like how they protect it. What new processes and tools and workflows are you starting to implement to help your team scale its operations?
Yeah, so I think let me start off with talking about how I view the complexity. As Mignona mentioned as well, there are several new trends that security team need to understand from an architecture perspective. The scale of usage of cloud is like never before. Businesses are accelerating the adoption of cloud and transforming the way they're providing services to their customers. A large number of organizations are utilizing cloud in a multi-cloud way, trying to meet their customer where they are and honoring their preferences of cloud service providers. And then there is a lot of variety of cloud services in use. So the real challenge, I think, for security teams, as I think about this complexity, is to establish a consistent security baseline of how users of an organization should use the cloud. And the first thing in my mind would be to set security standards and policies, which help govern and establish the security baseline. Once you have that, the next step is automation. And the way to think about automation, in my view, is essentially two approaches. There is a risk remediation approach where you're constantly monitoring your cloud environment for posture and detecting deviations and helping remediate those deviations. And then there's a risk prevention approach where you're thinking about approaches of preventing risk from getting introduced into the environment in the first place, right? And a great example of a risk prevention approach that we've championed is establishing automated cloud guardrails that prevent cloud resources from being misconfigured in real time. And that is powerful because it's very effective from a security perspective. It's actually preventing the risk from getting introduced. And then it also helps the users of the cloud who are not having to service recurring security remediation tickets. And so I think I actually see security teams evolving to be security services organizations, where they're not only conceptualizing the problems we need to solve, but providing solutions and services to their users and helping them solve those.
I
Nicole, and
love I love that, Disha, about the evolution of the security team into providing solutions. I couldn't agree more with you. And hearing what Nicole mentioned in her introduction about what they're standing up at Riot Games, I think feeds into that concept.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have to have a user or a business centric approach in how we think about how we leverage the cloud, right? Like we can come up with whatever policies and governance, which is all necessary, but we need to make sure that we have an idea of how our business partners are using this environment and what can we do to make it easy for them to do so in the most secure manner. And I think when that's referenced, once our policies are inspired by that, right? I think we get a lot more adoption and a lot more collaboration with our business partners, which is what we need in order to make this successful.
Joanna, I'll jump back to you. Like, where do you see gaps in the current skill set of security professionals today, that will be important skills to address future challenges, and how do you think teams should be working to kind of build those skills inside?
I love this question, and I think there's not only one answer, but there is one answer that I think of every time, and it is working on our communication skills to various audiences. I started in engineering. My first job was a software security engineer in the mid 90s, and I spent first decade of my career just in engineering, being an engineer, managing engineers, and not once did we talk about or focus on how to communicate with your audience. And even basics like you communicate to different audiences in different ways. You're not going to roll into the GM of a business and communicate the same way you're going to communicate to another R&D group. But we don't spend time on that, especially with technical people when they're early in their careers. So by the time you get into leadership, you in general haven't had a foundation in good communication, and it's something that really holds us back in security, I believe. So one of the things I started focusing on probably halfway through my career about 15 years ago was focusing on giving the folks in my organizations opportunities to safely develop those communication skills in advance of when they really needed it to be critical, right? And I think that is, you can tackle that in a portfolio of ways. It's giving people safe places to practice. It's offering internal and external training to people on communication. And quite simply, to bolt on to what Nicole said a while ago, giving security professionals the chance to get in and talk to the business. Learn the language that they speak, learn the things that resonate with people in the business, all the way from leadership to individual contributor. That's going to help us all the way through all the levels of a security org to actually communicate with the stakeholders we serve. And I think that's one of the areas that we have not done as well as we can do on. And we're beginning to do that. And I think if we continue, it's going to continue to build that internal political currency, as well as help us truly be the enablers that we need to be.
So, I love what you said, Joanna, because we do need to communicate. And further, everyone, I reached out to Joanna last week to get help on how to communicate. So, and she's been sending me a lot of material. So I will keep improving. And I think the driver behind that is us wanting to continuously learn and have a growth mindset. And how do we get our people to want to learn and grow? And so we have to sometimes break through complacency, or how do we untrain legacy behaviors? And so it's a lot's added into the communication. It's going towards a lot of soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just one thing real quick. I completely agree with the communication aspect, just being a technical person myself. The one thing that I'll add to that, a trend that I'm seeing is coming back to the, security as a service conversation, is we not only need, security talent, but we also need engineering talent in security teams, right? So that we are not only thinking about what the problem is, and what the policies and best practices are around the problems that we need to solve, but we are in a position to actually solve them and provide them as a service to the user, and you need some kind of engineering and coding skills for that. So we're actually building out an engineering practice within our security practice. So
Thank you all. I'll actually follow up on that question and add in one here. Like, as we think of security in dev organizations, do you see some organizational changes that can help make that team come closer together? Like, are there changes in the organizations around like even reporting? How do you push those teams further together? Because, like you said, that kind of gap of skill set is tough. Anybody wants to address that one?
Well, I want to just talk about my reporting. I've been in the security world for 30 plus years, and I have never reported to the CIO. And a lot of the security people have always reported to the CIO. But at Bank of America, I reported to the chief, the COO, and here at NetApp, I'm reporting to the CFO. I think that's been very instrumental and helpful for me, is because I've not been I've been able to spread across the entire company and drive change without under the umbrella of just the IT agenda.
yeah, so I actually agree. There is where typically I see security thrive as a function in an organization is where it's not tied to IT or engineering per se, but it's sitting in a standalone operations type organization that has cross-functional visibility and impact, right? But that is not to say the organization itself needs to be technically enough so that it can interact effectively with technical stakeholders as well as business partners, right? So.
I'm a big fan of learning what we can from other functions who have had this issue in similar ways in the past. And this ties really closely into what Mignona said a while ago. If you look at the evolution of centralized finance organizations and centralized HR, they created finance and HR business partners for a reason. People who really sort of have a dual reporting functionality because they need to be embedded with a certain business, but they also owe an accountability to a centralized org. I think we're continuing to learn from that in security and understanding, number one, there's not one single answer because every enterprise is different, every vertical is different. But where can we productively have a setup where you do have something centralized, you do have some things federated, and how they work together most optimally? They don't all have to be centralized.
I agree to all. Before turning on this next question, I have to say that like even for me, right? Like as a woman, I've been in cyber my entire career, like for almost like 14 years now. It's sad to say, but even for me, it's hard. Like I have all those, cloud security professionals, but the context is Women's Day. But for me, it's always a bit hard to like ask questions about that because I feel like, like I'm asking cloud security experts, why do I even need to address it? I always have this internal debate in doing those types of things. But it was International Women's Day, and it is at the end, like I think we do need to address it because there is like a lack of women, especially in cyber, even like a bigger we see smaller percentiles of women in cyber than even in other like tech teams for reasons I have never completely understood. So I'll switch this one over to you, Nicole. As we think of International Women's Day this Friday, and as we think of the future of cloud security, um, I feel like we probably all envision a community of diverse cybersecurity professionals. How do you think we can invest and support women and also other minorities in the security industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we need to treat it much like we do our own security strategy, right? So you start with a self-assessment and really take a good look at your team culture, your company culture. And the first thing we need to ask ourselves, is this somewhere that I would feel good and confident about recruiting women to work, right? That's the first thing, right? Because it's great if you can get women in the door. Like we know that's one metric, but I think the thing we need to think more deeply about and be more focused on is what are the experiences of the women who are in your organization, right? Are they getting the same project opportunities, right? Are they getting the mentorship opportunities? Are they being promoted into leadership? That's the true measure of success, right? So we need to start by evaluating ourselves and then taking a look at our recruiting, right? Like of course, we all know it's typically just human nature, right, to be more connected or easily, flow towards those who look and mirror ourselves. But how are we being intentional about connecting with different women communities? Maybe even starting, at the college level, right? A lot of women may not study technology. So how do we go about influencing the pipeline from way back then and building that interest with Girl Scouts and things of that nature way back then, and providing some representation for them to see like all the amazingly accomplished women on this panel so that they know it's possible, right? And just continuing to make those investments in from a time perspective, even from a financial perspective, but really, really showing up and putting the pressure on our recruiting teams, right? To make sure that they're going out and connecting with these folks, and then even looking at our interview process to make sure that it's inclusive of women and people of underrepresented minorities. So, traditionally you hear people say, oh, we need to go and recruit from here and talk to here. No, it first starts with looking at our own organizations, looking at our own habits, and then making sure that those are up to par, and then moving forward with connecting and investing in those communities and bringing some folks in.
Yeah, I want to add to this. I was on a panel, it was all women, and it was the same question. And the audience it was men. And they asked this question, we don't know how to work with you. And because there's been so many rules. And it's like, so I took the persona of, okay, let me just teach people how to work with me. And then my big aha moment came. I was at AIG and I was a senior female leader there in technology as well. And I had a CIO share with me, as women, we're not broken. And I was like, she told me that. And it's like, we've grown our entire careers trying to fit in with people that didn't know how to work with us. And so I was like, take these kind of statements and all of the things that I've learned through my past and start just working with others. Hey, here's what's going on. So I just became very authentic. And it's unbelievable the number of people that gravitate towards me just by being me, instead of me trying to fix something because I didn't know how to fit in.
That really hits home for me and really resonates for me. I can share personally, like, I really love tech and cyber. I also really love like clothes and fashion. There's been years in my career where I've tried like dressing it down to work, and at some point I was like, you know what? It does not matter. Like, it's just like you said, like there's no need to try to fit yourself and mold yourself in. So that really resonated. I think like actually to close it off, like Joanna, before we move into like audience questions, what are you most optimistic about in terms of women in cloud security?
I mentioned earlier that I've had quite a long career. The white hair is earned for sure. And I remember in the mid 90s when I started working, and I was fortunate because I did come from a technical background. I started as an engineer. So going into, being in the cybersecurity vertical, I had that credibility and that background. But I saw for years that if you didn't come from that background, you were seen differently and not seen as a full on member of the cyber vertical. I have really seen that change. I do not think it has totally gone away, but if you compare today with that mindset of 30 years ago, there really has been an evolution here. And that makes me very optimistic because honestly, cybersecurity is a very fully fleshed out function now. It is truly a horizontal in any enterprise. And like any horizontal, you need to have all skill sets in there. You need marketing, you need communication, you need good finance knowledge, you need all these things in addition to having people that are very technical. So I am seeing, Raj, you mentioned this earlier, for whatever reason, we don't see as many women in the uber technical parts of cyber, full on getting into malware reversing and digital forensics. And I still would love to see that change, but it is what it is right now. But no longer are we seeing that be such a barrier to leadership and growth and becoming a CISO. And I think that's a great evolution and makes me very optimistic that it will continue.
I love that. And just on time, we'll move over to questions from the audience. So first question, what are your thoughts on strengthening the cybersecurity posture model for firms that may utilize or are using AI? Lishad, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So I think when I think about AI, there are two aspects to it. One is, securing AI, and one is using AI for security, right? And so both are important, right? As security professionals, we want to take advantage of the technology and figure out how we can use that to solve the complex security problems that are in front of us, right? And then the second part is, as businesses and security as a function learns to use that technology, it is going to explode. Just I see it very similar to cloud computing, where 2 decades earlier, cloud came up as a thing. Businesses saw value in using the cloud, and we saw just this accelerated adoption. And quite literally, cloud security that as a function was formed, right? And so I see that to be a similar trend for AI, where security teams, we in my group right now, we're starting to experiment with using the technology for boosting productivity, for solving cloud security problems, and learning the technology. And once we know more about it, figuring out ways to secure it comes next. And so I think it's an evolving space. It's changing as we speak, but it's one of the trends to look forward to, and it's exciting. I'm a believer.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to address this one? Okay.
I'm excited about how AI is going to be able to help burnout in cybersecurity organizations. I really I believe that we see, especially in our SOC and our TDR areas, we see a lot of burnout. It is a hard job. And one reason it's a hard job is you have humans trying to think like parallel computers, trying to look across huge amounts of events, trying to make correlations, trying to do those things that AI will be good at. And then the human can really lean more into what the human brain is good at and make it a human AI partnership. I'm excited about being able to help people in that regard.
I agree with you, Joanna. We're using a tool now called Trust Cloud, because we get all these surveys. All these companies are asking us questions. And so now we're using AI to answer the questions. Now we're testing the efficiency rate and helping tune it, but it's the only way to allow us to be scalable. I mean, or it is a way to allow us to be scalable, to address the burnout, but also to let us do more creative things.
Exactly. Right. Do what the human's good at. Keep me posted how that goes. I'm extremely interested.
So thank you, Amanda, for the great question. Now we have another question from Frank. The question is, as you go down the path of building engineering skills among your security team, are you strategically trying to guide the business in a direction towards growth, or are you focusing on meeting the requests from the business?
I can take that one. I think it's definitely pointing the business and helping them grow, and the whole idea about automating out security and providing security as a service is so that the business can focus on product and feature delivery, right? And we can provide these default secure platforms and services that businesses just have to adopt and not have to worry about constantly doing security work to keep up with the challenges. And so I think it's definitely a growth conversation. It is a model that will help security teams scale and businesses grow. So yeah.
I agree. We talk to our business all the time. And I think no matter what field you're in, the business is definitely focused on growth, right? My focus is helping them grow securely. If I can get them to develop and deliver securely, that for me is a win. And we do that by building security into their capabilities, but also meeting the requests, as Frank asked, from the business in a thoughtful, effective, efficient, repeatable, and scalable way.
Okay, so we're just wrapping up on time. I want to thank all of you for your time today and for sharing with us. It is so much fun to talk to so many cyber experts, women. Like, we were hosting these webinars often, and it's such a fun audience to have here. Thank you all for your time and for joining us and sharing from your expertise. And thank you so much to all of the audience for taking time off your busy days. I hope it was a well use of your time. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.